7:02. Do roll call. Barron here, McConville,
Here.
Reese,
Here.
Stone,
Here.
Hughes,
Here.
Sesto,
Here.
Volker, and Burns. And
Mango.
Mangold. Not Manigold, Mangold.
Mangold.
I always want to call him Manigold, but he's not.
I know.
It's not, it's Mangold.
Yeah.
So we have a quorum. First item up is the approval of our minutes.
So moved.
It's been moved by Judy to accept. or to
Second.
Approve the minutes. Seconded by John. Jonathan.
Jonathan, yeah, I was gonna say.
We got a John and a Jonathan. So I gotta. Any additions, corrections, omissions, changes, whatever? Comments? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that is taken care of. Are they on their way?
I don't know, I've left messages, I don't know.
All right, we will skip over the Dunkin' Donuts thing for right now, just in case they're running late. And we're gonna go to item 2 under our new business. We have no old business. So we have new business. Second item is public hearing to consider a text amendment to section 118-1 and section 118-2 of the municipal code of the city of Ottawa. And Doug, I take it you're gonna represent the city on this one?
Sure.
You wanna explain to us what's going on?
Yeah, basically, Matt Stafford, I think it originally developed with a resident had one of the shipping containers at their house. By shipping containers, everyone know what I mean by the.
Yeah.
And it, obviously, first the complaints came from the neighbors, and then made him aware, and kind of light bulb went off like, well, obviously this is not a good use in a residential neighborhood. And then it seemed to kind of snowball there, where all of a sudden Walmart wanted to use some for, I think part of it was due to COVID, to try to stock up on their supplies and that sort of thing. And so he kind of spearheaded it and worked with Megan to develop an ordinance. Just, get something on the books, and obviously these things are living documents. So if we, as we see things in the future that we didn't anticipate, we can adjust them. But so that's the gist of it. So I'll go through here real quick. The one thing that I don't think it addresses, and maybe at this point it doesn't need to address it, is there's some real it's more in more urban areas than what we are. But for example, Las Vegas has a whole shopping mall made out of shipping containers, and there's some pretty cool looking houses made out of shipping containers. Right now anyway, this ordinance doesn't really anticipate. I don't know, maybe the best course of action is, hey, let's just get something on the books now to take care of the stuff that we don't want and can control a little bit, and then maybe we massage it as we see fit, maybe for some residential uses.
What's to keep a business like a garden center or even a food truck place or whatever from turning a sea container into a stand that they operate out of? It's a sea container,
What about
but they
shaker?
modify it to open it up so you can lift
It's
the
almost
fronts.
like
and-
yeah.
Is
Right
that
now, the only
prohibited?
thing is really building code type stuff. Is it?
That's covered in the building code?
Yes.
Shakers, for example.
I
has
forgot to
two-
drive up
has
there. I
two
heard
right
they
now,
have some up there.
and they're constructing a outdoor bar.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Well-
Now, a gardens, I could think of a couple places that would, hey, they buy a property, and this is a quick way to get up and running. You bring in one of these sea containers, it's modified, that you lift the fronts or you put garage doors on them or whatever, and hey, they're ready to go. So would
So
they still meet the definition of a sea container, and would they be prohibited?
the proposed ordinance is allowing them as an accessory use in D and E, and then as temporary structures in C2, C3, C4, C5. So,
But what's temporary? You put a time
well,
limit on it?
it's defined in here, but there is a time limit, but to your point, it's a good point.
Yeah, I agree.
Because really, at that point, it's a primary building, not an accessory.
Well, I look at them like a Quonset hut. You know, they
Yeah.
started out as
Same
a temporary
idea.
thing, they're cheap
Yeah.
to put up,
Yeah.
whatever,
Yeah.
but you know what? There's Quonset huts that are still here from World War II.
Right, yeah. And it's, I mean, there's some, these aren't bad. They're bad in certain situations, as far, in someone's backyard in a nice residential subdivision.
So, in
Like
the
the one at the
proposal,
Surrey
it'd be
Motel.
banned in residential, correct?
Mhm,
For no use.
correct.
Right.
And what happens if somebody, because you got these outfits like pods and whatever that drop off these containers in front of a house you load them up and then they come and they pick them up.
Different.
But
That
that's
would be
not the same
temporary.
thing.
And those are in your driveway versus.
Driveway.
Yeah,
it's loaded
about-
to take
And they
it.
have,
Right.
and they load them
Yeah,
up
And
and
I
they
haven't
move
seen
them.
a pod that's as big as a shipping container. Maybe they are. I'm sure there are, but usually they're about a quarter or maybe an eighth of that size.
Well, I'm just saying that, I mean, where do they come in? They don't? Because
No,
they're,
because they're only
No
there.
different than if you put a dumpster outside.
Right.
And it'd be no different if they park an RV in their driveway.
but do we have to put a time limit on how long those can be there?
I don't think so.
It
I think
hasn't
that's-
been an issue.
Restrictive.
Mhm.
But I have a question on the last page under the length of the permit and the issuance, et cetera. Where it says they have a maximum of 180 days and then they can get an extension of 180 days. But there's nothing in here about what if they don't get it off after the extension? Should there be a fine imposed on these people
Hold on.
or language regarding a fine?
1 second.
So if they exceed their 1 year?
Well, 180 days, beginning the first day the cargo container is placed, and a temporary permit may be extended for construction projects exceeding 180 days, but it doesn't say, is that a year, 2 years, or what? And then if they don't get it off within that specified time, what happens?
Like not to exceed another 180
Right.
days?
Yeah, I mean, there should be a definite timeline on there
I
as to
agree.
when it starts and when
Yeah,
it
I agree.
stops.
And I had read that same thing along with, if they don't, then what's the
Exactly,
recourse?
it's the what-if question. So what if I don't move it off after all my extensions
Is it so much
expire?
of a fine per day?
Well, it should be hefty enough, I think, per day to make them take the
Makes
action.
progress happen.
Well, our typical fines are how much, Doug?
They're all across the board, just depends.
There's so much per day or per violation, per whatever, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And each day is considered a violation or whatever.
That's a good point, Judy.
Will the junkyards be able to use them as fencing? Because that's their plan, is to line their perimeter of their property, especially that,
Which junkyard?
That new guy?
the Madden was planning,
His conditional use is expired.
I know, but I'm saying
That was his
his,
plan, I think.
his plan was to line it with
Yeah.
sea containers.
Yes, you're right.
Oh, I didn't hear that.
Uh-huh, yeah.
I would have not been for that.
Well,
I
in
thought
general,
he said he had to construct a fence.
Well, but what about sea containers?
Against the
Oh,
train tracks, I think he was talking about the shipping.
To create a barrier.
I remember
But
him
not-
specifically saying that he was going to use a fence.
yeah,
Because
and
we
I,
talked about the slats going in the
Exactly.
fence.
Correct.
Yeah.
exactly.
Well, he was gonna use a fence for part of it, but then he also said he was gonna use sea containers as part of the barrier.
Oh, I guess I missed that part of it.
Mhm. Yeah.
Generally, my thought is I'm against them, period. I think they're intrusive. People take advantage of it and they make billboards out of them. They do everything out of them that they're not originally used. So for me, I would recommend the most restrictive of any of these until we actually start seeing some better ideas of the use and how it coexist with our plans for aesthetics and other, things that we push very hard to do every time we see something like this. And I'm actually still against even Walmart because they're notorious for that. They make that excuse that, oh, well, we need the space because they're just doing that because that's easy, cheap space that they don't have to use their own facilities for. But, around the holidays, maybe like Christmas, that's fine. We understand that, there's pent up demand. But it'll turn into all season, they'll make an excuse every time.
Well, hence the temporary permit and the limit on the time you can have the extension.
But in Walmart, for example, they're in C3, so it's a temporary
Yeah.
permit. It
Yeah.
can't be in any side yard, it can't be in the front yard, so it's gotta
Yeah.
be behind the building.
Yeah.
Um,
If it's screened, I mean, I could see the temporary use for it, but, just don't want to take abuse and start lining them up one by one by one. And that's, how that happens. But yeah, I mean, I'm all for restrictive as much as possible.
I get Walmart's gonna put it behind the building, but if you live to the west of Walmart, you're gonna see it. I mean, we're not gonna see it going into Walmart because it's behind the building, but anybody on the west side of Walmart's gonna see it.
If it ever sells.
I mean,
If it ever goes
I know there's nothing there now, but I'm
Are
saying,
they, in and of themselves, are they obtrusive to look at, I guess? I mean, there's gonna be.
well, they
It's a
bother John,
commercial
so I
area.
imagine
There's gonna be outdoor storage of
It's
stuff.
not any worse than looking at the building.
Right, exactly.
What I don't like is people taking advantage of it. That's, whenever you allow something like that, they're gonna take advantage
They
of it.
always do.
They
And
always
they
do.
always will.
Yeah, and we have to make sure that, if they're going to allow for temporary use, then they should be screened. It's, who wants to see a bunch of rusty containers next to we spent a lot of time trying to beautify that area when it was first proposed. We put landscaping requirements and all that. It's just gonna now be dirtied with a couple of steel containers. So that's my point of view of it. That's for any business. I'm not picking out Walmart. I'm
No,
just
I know.
using that as an example
Right.
of,
So
well,
the cargo container that's parked in front of the Surrey Motel will be grandfathered, won't it?
that shouldn't even
No,
be.
there's no grandfathering, because right now there's no.
Okay.
It's not even addressed.
I think I saw.
That thing's been there forever.
I know.
This is
There's at least a couple of them.
Years.
I guess it's been there so much, I drive by, I didn't even
You
notice
don't
it.
even notice
Well,
it.
after a while, you don't.
It
But
became a permanent fixture.
It is, because I go by every day and then when I do look at it,
I can't
Well, you
even
see-
picture it right now.
Yeah,
it's literally at Route 23.
It's right
at
on
the
the road.
front.
It's right by the
And then
sign.
there's like a dumpster and extra bags of garbage and then the hotel starts.
yeah,
and
I
a
just
mop
drove that
bucket,
way today.
and a mop bucket.
yeah.
Is there a
So
mop
I guess
bucket
what
out
in terms of
Yeah, there
my
has been.
suggestion
Oh,
about the
there you go.
fine, I think it should apply to item number 2 with the temporary accessory
ones.
structure, so that it's covered in both of them.
yeah, I agree.
And they're definitely modifying
Okay.
it, but
And I think it should be a minimum of $100 a day.
For
Make
the,
it tough.
for the fine.
Fine. If they.
Everybody in agreement with that?
Yes.
$100 fine per day,
Mhm.
so let's propose that change.
that was.
The thing about this, we're just discussing the
Oh,
proposed,
sure.
whatever.
That, and there's two.
Then it goes to council, and the council can,
Oh, they can change the
Maybe
whole.
Well,
change
you know,
this whole
like
thing.
I said,
Yeah.
it's almost impossible to kind of foresee, to, I guess, legislate every, you know what I mean? Something's gonna happen where we're like, oh, we didn't think of
you
that.
gotta
Right,
start
and
somewhere.
it's gonna happen, but you have to have something as a
Agreed.
starting point.
Yep,
You can always amend it.
exactly. And that's kind of what this is. Let's get something on paper.
Exactly.
and
It's
then-
banned in residential A1, A2, is it banned in,
It's only allowed as an accessory structure, let's see.
118
In D&E, so
in
office and
DNA.
light industrial and industrial, and then only as temporary structures in C2, C3, C4, C5.
is no screening required in D&E, right?
No extra screening required.
But is there screening required in C?
No, because it's a temporary thing.
And it's outlawed in A1, A2, and B.
In R and parks. as well, yes.
Civic use.
Yeah.
I suggest also maybe we look at a few of the municipalities that already passed these ordinances. I can tell you one is Oswego, and the other one is, I live in Plainfield. Those two went through this probably about a dozen years ago, when they started seeing the accessibility of those. And they put some really nice restrictions in. They're not, I mean, they're protect the residents and also not to take advantage of the situation. They don't completely ban them, but they do have some really strict enforcements. So just to, I didn't get a chance to look them up, and I apologize, I would have got it done.
Well, the trigger for this was the residential thing, so at least we're taking one step in the right direction.
Right.
Yeah, I agree.
I agree,
As
Kurt.
Doug says, this is kind of a living document. It could-
Right.
It could be updated from a commercial,
sure.
an industrial
And
standpoint.
I'm sure some point down the line, someone's gonna wanna build a house out of it.
Yeah,
There's gonna be a commercial
It's gonna
development
happen.
that's gonna wanna use it, and that's fine, we'll take a look at it.
it might be tastefully done and the
Right.
neighbors might be okay with it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Okay.
Yeah,
Does this
get it
ordinance
started.
apply to the county?
The city ordinance, no.
So the county could do whatever they want up there on Etna Road?
Oh,
No,
Mile and a half?
No, they're in,
The mile, it's, well, it's
they're
within
in
city
the,
limits.
they're in the city limits.
So there's always the question, like, other governmental entities, what type of, I guess, control the city has, like school districts. If they're building a school building, they don't necessarily have to come in for, DRC and stuff like that. They do just to be
As
good
courtesy.
neighbors, but
Yeah.
they don't have to. To answer your question then, I mean, I don't know. I guess yes, but,
if they're within the city limits, how can they?
yeah, it's not like they're immune.
No, they still would
So
have
if we
to come
ban
out.
it, if we ban it and,
But they're zoned, I don't know what they're zoned up there.
is that civic? I don't know if we have a
We
civic
don't have a
zone.
civic zoning classification. Let's see here. Give me a second.
I'm just raising that as an issue.
Well, that's a good question.
They're zoned. D.
Because I could see them wanting to put something back behind.
They're
their
zoned D up
building.
there, so it's allowed as an accessory structure.
What is it, D?
Yeah.
So it would be on.
They would be.
Accessory.
Oh, actually, no. Sorry. Looks like it's C3.
So it'd be a conditional.
No, it'd be only
Temporary.
temporary, yeah.
Yeah. They couldn't arbitrarily just plunk it somewhere. They'd have to come in and get a.
Because part of their property butts up against the cemetery, and I don't
Yes.
know if any of it butts up against the houses up there or not.
Yes, it does. They own that cornfield immediately to the east. There's 20 acres in there.
So that butts up against Turnberry.
Yes. That's the boundary. And
Well-
that goes all the way down to Oakwood Memorial Park.
Yeah, so that cornfield and Oakwood are out of the city. And so is that,
That would be in the county then. That would be their jurisdiction.
right, but the building itself and the complex itself is within the city limits.
Why would the county want to put shipping containers in the back though? I mean, they've been there
I
for
don't see it myself.
decades and
I don't see it. But you
You
never know.
know, you don't know. I mean, they could want to go store whatever.
But they got the highway department there. I mean, I think they got a lot of storage down there.
Yeah.
And they got, but, and you're right, you never know, but I guess. we
That
have to
would
address
pertain
that.
to anybody. You just don't know, and you can't cover every detail in the ordinance. You
Oh,
just have to keep amending.
And when it ever pops up, it's going to be a good fight.
Oh, yeah. Probably will.
Because the county will say, hey, screw you, we're the county, we're doing whatever we want. So yeah, it'll take us to court.
Do we have the ability to do anything about that? Because,
At the county?
yeah,
I would think since they're within city limits that we could.
But just the
I'm
building.
not sure about zoning, because I'm sure when they built the building, like from a building permit standpoint, they don't have to get city, building
Permission.
permit. No.
Right.
But I think from a zoning perspective, I think this city would have zoning jurisdiction over it.
Okay.
I do too.
I'm trying to figure out where does the web weave, right? So
Yeah.
if it starts to happen, where do we go?
Right.
Yeah, we can't legislate everything.
No.
Coulda, shoulda, woulda,
Yeah.
maybe,
It's
could've,
like-
maybe.
Right.
My dad would say if dog rabbit, but I'm not gonna tell you what that means.
Well, I can think of one place that's probably gonna put one of these in real quick for when they get going, just to get started, would be the soccer people. While they're waiting to put up a building and whatever, they could put one of these down there real easy to use
Not
for
if we
their
pass this,
storage.
they can't. I said, not if they pass this. Or we
Well,
pass
but I'm
this.
just saying that, as far as
Yeah,
foreseeing
I hear you.
where one of these might pop up real
I
quick,
hear you, yeah.
that would be the spot, because it's like, hey, call up, get one dropped, and that's where we're gonna store our mower, our nets, or
Yeah.
whatever, we're gonna put it
It's cheap,
until we get a building
they're
built.
cheap, yeah.
And it's cheaper than a building.
And it's
So-
ready.
And it's there.
But that's,
Put it
there's
down,
an
open up the door.
example of
That's
why we
nothing.
need this passed with the permits and the 180 days,
Yeah.
et cetera.
Well, and yeah, hey, you guys, you can use one for 180 days or a year, but after a year, you better come up with a more
Yeah.
permanent solution.
Yeah.
So,
And then the key is in the enforcement.
and like Kurt
As
said,
with everything it is.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
and like Kurt said, you can't foresee every what if and whatever.
No.
So
So what action do we do tonight then, Doug? What's
we make this recommendation.
Yeah, just.
It's just a
Make a recommendation that, we approve the
The ordinance
text amendment with the,
with the changes that have
Yes.
been suggested regarding fines.
yes.
That sound like a motion there,
Okay,
Judy.
so moved.
Well, yeah, we did say it pretty well. I was gonna look it up, and thank you.
Judy made the motion to approve the text amendment with the changes that include the language on fines,
Okay.
Sure.
be applicable to what, the C3 class, right? Is it C3?
I don't know.
What do you mean?
If they're in violation of the,
That's C2, C3.
yes,
C4, C5,
Because that is an
yeah, but I'm
existing
saying that
one.
whatever C.
Okay, if it's,
Going in
if it's,
right now.
she's talking
It was
about if it's a
temporary.
temporary, they got a temporary
Yeah,
permit.
you know where it goes.
Yes.
All right, now is there a second to that motion?
I'll make a second.
John seconded. Now we can have a discussion further about,
We
What it
had the
applies to.
discussion.
we already did, but I'm just saying,
Yeah.
that's formality.
Yep.
It's to the C zones. The D and E are gonna be a permitted use,
As an accessory.
as an accessory structure.
And again, it's
Okay.
still gotta meet all the yard setbacks and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
All right,
So what about modified ones? If they're modified?
Good question.
I'm sorry, what's modified?
Like if they took one and they cut holes in it to like Shakers, for example, they're gonna make an outdoor bar out of one. So it's not necessarily gonna be a contained structure anymore, it's gonna be
See, I'm not happy about that.
one use, but then,
Would they need, would they had to come and get a permit?
Yes.
Because that's
So
a
the-
construction project,
Yeah,
and they have
they have
electrical
to
and
get a
plumbing.
And
permit.
they're gonna have to get a permit, and I'm, as, John, as you're saying this, I'm thinking, really, they should come in for a design review committee,
Yeah,
because,
Part of business.
yeah,
yeah.
Yeah.
but that's to be, stuff like that's gonna be handled later, correct? We're not,
no, right, but just trying to answer, just kind of brainstorming with John's question, what's a good question.
It's already happening.
Yeah, I
so-
guess it's already happening.
it's happening right now.
Oh, really? I haven't been up there.
Yeah, it's
I
like
haven't
under
either.
construction.
Oh,
Where's
really?
getting mad out there.
Back, front?
I have to take a ride up there.
Along the
So-
fence line.
Mhm.
So if it's already happening, we don't know because we're the planning commission, but I would like to know, did they come to get a permit?
Yeah, I'll ask
It
Matt.
doesn't matter if it's wood or steel or
They still have
fiberglass,
to have a building
it's a
permit.
structure, it's a building,
Yeah.
yeah.
it's being used as a.
It should be looked at by the fire codes?
It's gonna have electrical and
Yeah.
plumbing and, yeah,
Yeah, it has to be approved by everybody. It's a building, whether it's permanent or not.
yeah.
Yeah, I still gotta get a permit, building permit.
Yeah.
Right.
I'll ask Matt, I don't know.
Okay, appreciate that.
Might be amending our own draft ordinance here before it even gets put into effect. I'll be coming back and saying, hey, we gotta put a change to on this one.
And it could happen,
It's
but
okay.
at least this is a start.
This
Yeah.
starts the conversation, like we said.
All right, there's a motion on the floor, so I'm gonna call for a vote. All in favor of approving the text ordinance with the so noted changes, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that motion carried. That's going to the council for them to take action at their next meeting in May. And they'll probably sit around for a while while they think
They'll chew on
about it.
it, make their changes.
Well, it's whatever.
I understand.
But in the meantime, can you get with either Matt or whoever and find out about the building code stuff and if they're doing something up like
Oh,
a
yeah,
Shakers,
yeah, I'll
that's
ask
gonna
Matt what's going
require
on, yeah. Yep.
whatever.
You know, interesting side note on this conversation, about 4 or 5 years ago, I got an extra lot that's next to my house, and I wanted to get a shed for it. I wanted a big one, it was like 16 by 20. So I called down here and I talked to Mike Zeppin at the time, I was like, hey, I need to get I want to buy a shed, do I have to pay a permit or anything like that? And I says, I was actually thinking about getting a shipping container. Oh, no, he says, that's against the ordinance, you can't do that. I'm like, oh, okay, so I just went ahead and bought a shed. But I never bothered to look into it, and I had intended to, paint it, it was gonna look nice in the neighborhood, I was gonna put flowers in it, like flower basket things in the front of it, and he was like, oh, God, no, he says, we don't allow those in residential areas, and, dumb like me, I'm like, okay, I just hung up the phone, I wrote him a check for $25 because it was bigger than 100 square feet or whatever it was, or 10 by 10, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, if it was bigger than 10 by 10, you have to get a permit, so, it was pretty simple, but I wouldn't have had the balls to do that like
But
somebody
most
else
people
did.
wouldn't, they
Yeah.
would just take his word for it,
Yeah.
whether he knew it or not.
Yeah,
Well,
And, it probably would have looked fine and been okay.
it would have been, yeah.
Yeah.
And that property is fenced in on 3 sides and, and I had already talked to the neighbors and everybody was fine with it, but then I just went ahead and with the shed instead, so. Yeah.
And really, it's only your house that it faces, because the fence
Exactly,
is all on
yeah.
the other sides of it.
So,
well, I just know this, when I was on the Easter Seals board, we had a sea container over there for storage for a number of years. They
Yeah.
got it off of Thrush. But I don't think at the time, I don't think there was anything stopping them. That was wide open. There was no fence around it, no
Right.
nothing. They stored all kinds of crap in there.
So really, there's not until right now, right?
Right.
yeah.
There hasn't been
I mean,
anything.
you could try to interpret the ordinance to not allow them or
Yeah.
whatever, but if you're trying to enforce something, it
It'd
makes
be
it really
hard.
hard.
Yeah.
Well, just playing devil's advocate. We're talking about sea container that's sitting on the ground, correct?
Mhm.
What's to stop somebody from pulling it in that's on wheels?
Yeah.
It's no longer a sea container.
It's a trailer.
It's a
It's a
trailer.
trailer, it's a mobile.
Mhm.
Then
You know,
it's probably some other part of the,
no, but I'm saying, somebody could pull it in and say, hey, that's not a sea container, it's a trailer, look, it's still got the wheels on it.
People
Yeah.
are innovative. and-
They'll come up with any way to go,
Yep.
like John was saying, any which way to get around
yeah,
this.
yeah.
You know, so we'll just have
We'll
to
have to
see.
address it, if it comes, we'll have to address it.
Okay. How do you want to do this Dunkin' Donut thing? You want to go through their hearing, or you want to just?
They're not here.
Why don't, I would
I
say.
don't know
they're-
what,
How can you do
I'm
anything?
not sure why they're not here.
They did that with the design review though, or
Yeah,
the.
nobody showed up for that either. They
yeah.
were on the
That was
phone.
design review.
Well, that was different, that was a Zoom mess up, that wasn't their fault.
Oh, okay. Well, why don't we do this though? Why don't Doug, you just offer your findings so far of what has been accomplished, so we don't.
Well, do we
You
start
redundant?
this hearing and then
And then
continue it?
yeah, that way we don't have to, I don't have to republish.
All right,
Yeah.
okay, well, let's do that. I think, we'll start the hearing for the public hearing man, this shit's so damn small. I'm getting too old. Public hearing to consider a conditional use request for Nathani Elite Management Network for a drive-through at a lot of RP Lumber Company Plan Unit Development. So they're coming in as a PUD?
They already RFP, the whole.
The whole thing
The
is,
whole thing is a.
so is this just for the drive-through then?
Yes.
Remember, they came in last year for, when they basically created this lot.
Mhm.
Last
Alright.
year, I don't know what it was, but last year at some point.
And they
So
do
this is
this,
just
with-
for the drive-through itself.
they do this a lot with their properties. When they build a hotel, they'll put outlot on there, usually for another business or
Yeah.
businesses. And they sell it.
They moved the detention pond to the rear of the property. I don't know why they had it out front to begin with.
All right, well, since they're not here to
Yes.
explain whatever, we will continue this hearing until the
May.
May meeting, which is going to be, we're gonna get jammed up by Memorial Day.
Think so.
No.
Doug, would they think you're gonna require a special meeting then if they,
I mean, you know,
I know the
they knew
timeline.
their meeting was tonight, and I actually forgot to send them the agenda on Friday, but I sent it to them this morning, so
Yeah.
I never heard anything, so I don't know.
Well, that would be in 4 weeks,
Well, that's the 24th,
That's right.
24th of May.
yeah.
so that's the week before?
That's the week before Memorial.
Memorial, yeah.
Yeah,
So
The
we're
following
saying,
Monday is Memorial Day.
yeah.
So we will continue this hearing till that night. And
Yeah,
at that point, if they're here or not, we'll take action on it that night.
So by code, 4,000 square foot building fits on that space.
that's what I'm concerned about. That's my major objection, is the size of that lot and the size of that building, and then you got all that traffic going around it. And that's a busy intersection with the restaurants and the hotels and the gas stations.
But here's the problem. You're here about the drive-through only.
Yeah.
How about the size of the building?
Well, the plans, I thought we were here for the whole thing.
No,
No,
just a drive.
just the drive-through, Judy.
Okay,
So,
Well, but we have leverage though, because without a drive-through, the building doesn't happen.
yeah, that's true. They go hand in hand.
I think it's worth to say, go backwards now and say,
you
okay.
can't see my smirk under my mask. And I'll just tell you this right now, I am not a fan of drive-through. So I've just seen too many problems with drive-throughs.
Well, they're here to stay.
I was gonna say, I don't think we can change
Well,
that.
I know.
there are gonna be more and
Nothing you
more.
can do about
People
it.
realize with, with the whole COVID thing.
Yeah, but the site has to be suitable for a drive-through.
I agree.
But Judy and I did attend the DRC, and, I mean, they do have a contingency plan for the overflow, so which we asked them to do, and they did prevail with that. So I think that, that is something that you need to note. Also to note that, I have seen these in different areas similar, and really the only thing that I can say that is not predictable is what businesses go next door. So are they high traffic areas? Is it going to be a Jersey Mike's or, something that's going to require a lot of traffic? That could be a problem. And that's where we really,
I would bet you 10 to 1, it's not gonna be an office.
oh, probably not.
It'll
No.
be something where it's gonna have food or drink involved.
It could be, yeah.
One of them will be.
That's the trend.
Right.
But on the other hand now, how much parking is really required anymore is, and well, these would have no drive-throughs, but Dunkin's not gonna require a whole lot of parking. So any of those remaining parking spots, and then the ones in the rear, because they do have the rear at the hotel, don't they?
It'd be the hotel parking. but-
You got hotel
Correct.
parking,
Yeah, there was a parking lot here.
right? So those would be
Yeah, but
overflow.
not that we're getting into this tonight,
No,
but the thing I've seen up there at Dunkin' Donuts, where they're currently located,
Yeah,
they have more than 20 cars on a line.
oh, yeah. No
This one
question.
only
So-
calls for stacking of 7.
right, plus,
Yeah.
Huh?
No.
What?
Oh, shows 7 on the plan. He doesn't know about the drive,
If the,
what you're looking at now.
in the
Brent.
information there, Brent, so that's what happens if this car here, if this is stacked up to, first of all, they got 2 pickup windows.
Yeah.
It'll cut off 40 seconds from the current Dunkin'
Time.
Donuts. If this car, the last car is there, they'll set out cones, everyone will come around this second lane, stack on the south side of the building and in the pass-through lane. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12,
13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21.
Before they get out of their contained space.
And that's my thing, is you have to keep it within the property.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't want to see like the Dunkin' Donuts is now.
And the current Culvers is that same issue.
Culver's is terrible.
Yeah. That is,
So,
Yeah, well,
that's what I'm,
Wait till the car
Right.
wash opens.
Wait till the
Oh,
car
that'll
wash
be-
opens, wait till Starbucks opens.
right.
It's gonna be.
Well, I'm just saying, the design here and what they may have said, they're showing 7 on this design.
Well, but they showed the second design, if it's in the staff report there, where the cars are stacked. It's a picture in the staff
No,
report.
I guess it is. All I know is it's tight.
I think it's really tight, you're right.
And let them defend it when they come.
And I
You
wish,
know.
if there's some way that you could confirm with them the exact lot size.
So
Yeah,
what
because it kind of looks like they're actually encroaching onto some of the
hotel?
hotel, I mean, we're going to call it the parking lot west of
No,
the hotel, aren't they?
no, let me show you what I printed out at the courthouse, and I could be wrong.
I think that they have,
This shows, that's the property, and on their plan, they say they have .83 acres, and that's what this is. This is the hotel parking lot. This is all grass, although
That's
I
trucks,
think the
That's
hotels
the
expanded
new-
their parking.
That'd be the new
yeah, they
parking.
did, they expanded their parking
That's
lot.
the new
yeah,
parking.
that's what I said. So according to this, the way they showed on the site plan, that,
I know.
that
goes
comes
all
way
the
down to here. Yeah, it was
So the
really,
building, in my mind, would have
Yeah.
to set back away from the road quite a bit. But
It
you know
is.
they're gonna put the building up here.
yeah. No, well, there's some parking up here and then a
There's some parking,
curb and
yes,
sidewalk and
yeah.
then, yeah, so
But
you're right. I think that building ends up probably more in this area, according to the site plan. Right, Jonathan?
Well, you have some space here.
I think
Here's-
there's
here's a curb. Here's your sidewalk. It sits back. Here's your lot line, that blue line.
Yeah,
This is your line right here. So there's only a little 2 lanes. So this blue line, so the 2 lanes would be like right here. So the building does sit back. The building's
Yeah,
probably about
there's a
right
lot of
here.
space between here and here.
Yeah, it's probably this much
Well-
space.
And with parking in the front.
The building's probably about
yeah,
like right here.
but you've got traffic here.
But is there gonna be
600
sitting?
square
in-
foot building here.
Yeah.
There should be very
That's-
limited seating, so I don't know. if
Right here,
there's
there'll
a
be
lot
some
of-
seating, not much.
But
And they've
there's,
got that little island for
That's gonna be
outdoor
incredibly
seating.
Right
congested.
here,
oh, sure.
And that's,
And
a-
there's 2 buildings that are empty. There'll be 2 that are proposed to
I'm
be
just
empty.
concerned about the traffic. It's-
and did I read that this is
Yeah,
supposed to be a
it's-
24-hour operation now? It's gonna switch over to being all night,
24/7.
24/7.
You got, the lumber trucks go up here like constantly, and then you got all the hotel traffic back
All
here.
right.
And then
Well,
you have a lot
Yeah.
of people who
At
go
the
into.
restaurant.
Moot point.
Yeah.
well, not that we can
Oh, there's
continue
the
this
shipping
discussion a
container.
lot, but these are all
Missouri.
great.
No, there it is.
Yeah.
This is supposed to be an old picture, because there it is.
In all fairness, they have to come and explain.
Yes, they do.
Yeah,
And
and then we can sit there and,
we can ask them our questions and get.
but again, it's all about the drive-through. I mean, somebody else is gonna have to bring up the fact is that lot's sufficient for 3 buildings, I mean, or
I'm
3 off.
just concerned about
But
that.
that's not
my
what we're
big
gonna be
concern.
voting on,
And
so.
the stacking of the traffic, I'm worried about
All
that.
right.
That's my only concern.
Now we have a discussion item here about the rail study, put that on.
So I did get a copy of the final rail study, and it's basically the same thing they showed us. Number one.
Before,
Yeah.
that's gonna cost a lot of money to move anything.
Yeah. More than anybody
Mhm.
would spend.
The copy is their presentation they gave to us, is what it is.
So I sit on, I'm on the board for the Port District, and the last 2 meetings, we had discussions about the rail study. And I think the general consensus is, at least on the board that I serve on with the Port District, is the best alternative is to have the switching yard to the east towards Lyman's Mound area. So that would be the most sufficient and most cost conducive to do if they decide to expand their operations for switching or change it. We're trying to look for some grants, as we're not a taxing body, but we're a body that can actually get grants. And that is where it sits right now, is to see if there is some grants out there that the the government, the state of Illinois is offering for port districts, but it has to be really specifically used and in a short time period. I think it's May 1st or something like that. I mean, it's ridiculously, it's coming soon. So I don't know. So we threw a bunch of proposals in there, and that was one of them, and see if that comes out. So I want to at least give you a little update on that.
My question on that is, do they own sufficient right-of-way east, or would they have to acquire property east to move that?
They would have to require, they have to acquire.
They'd have to buy the property.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't know, I mean, I don't know how much of that right-of-way they own already.
They did I don't know if they did a study on it, but it was discussed that they do not own that land. They just have what they have,
They're right away on their
Right.
side of the tracks, which is what, 10, 20 foot,
I guess, yeah, probably.
as far as I know.
Railroad right-of-way can vary from
Oh, yeah,
whatever.
oh, yeah.
But, yeah, the most economically feasible part of that is to move the whole switch yard to the east,
Yeah.
down Lyman's Road, probably 1.5 miles east. And they'd be way east of any of the residential. There's some residential along Lyman's Mound out to the east,
Right.
but it's not like it is right there by Retz's addition.
Yeah.
It's unbelievably bad.
So is that being given to the planners to look at
Yeah,
for,
they have a copy.
so they'll incorporate the findings of that study in there,
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
or reference it at least?
Yeah, I mean, they can reference it. I mean, the findings were, if you go below, this is what your times are. If you go above, this is what your times are and costs are. So, I mean, there's not, it's pretty general.
The problem with either option on
Or the
Columbus
switch
Street,
yard,
Columbus Street or Champlain Street
I don't
is
see that ever happen.
the cost.
Yeah.
But the
It's not
intrusive-
gonna change.
The only, really, to me, the only option is the
East.
moving it.
Going east.
The homes that would have to come out.
For the other.
For that,
would be-
it-
And there's no,
Huge.
the cost and I just don't see it.
I
That's
don't either.
millions of
Well, that
dollars.
was for the
Just to buy
Relnet,
the
the
house.
Relnet property, and then they comment on the CSX property and all that. That's just impossible to do that on LaSalle Street or Columbus Street.
Right.
Because you don't have enough distance between 23 and Route 6.
Right.
So, whatever. So it'll be another plan to sit on a shelf somewhere and gather
Well, but
dust.
it's the first part. I mean, that wasn't designed to be the be all end all. That's just to get the ball rolling. And then, where it goes from there, I don't know, but you're probably right. It probably will sit there.
So our, the new comprehensive plan group, they're gonna come in next month?
Yeah, they'll be here in May. They were finishing up some stuff, some renderings of 80 and 71.
Mm-hmm.
And we had a couple comments for them, so it's kind of getting last minute. I'm like, you know what, let's just take your time, come here in May.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully you guys can come in person
Yeah.
and do a proper presentation.
One thing I want to bring up, if you don't mind, is just, I brought this up with them before, is that that property where Menards owns right now up in, by Walmart,
Yeah.
we really need to figure out what we're going to do with that property. Well, say we, but what's the general plan for that property? Because it's never going to be a big box store. I mean, face it, and Menards is going to own it. They're just going to keep their.
They're going to protect their own interests.
Which they
Exactly.
are.
So I look at it as a mixed use, great opportunity to make it mixed use. In other words, I've been traveling all around here. They're taking these malls and making them, putting apartments in and mixing the use up with retail and all that. I think that is the best bet. And not only that, we need stock for townhomes and multifamily, because we do not have any more left.
Which piece of property is it?
Across from
It's across
Walmart
from
to the
Walmart,
north.
but
North of
Menards
Walmart.
owns it, so they can do what they
Uh-huh.
want.
The new
The
one.
new Walmart.
Okay.
Yeah, the new Walmart, I'm sorry.
Sorry, I was like, wait,
The
isn't
new
it
old
bargain
Walmart.
where?
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's all-
Because that was the only thing I could think of empty, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I was
no,
like,
no.
wow, I do not know where this is.
No, that's okay.
Believe it or not, there's a sign out there that says future home
Yeah,
Menards.
I noticed that the other day.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
been
it
there
says
for,
that.
Yeah.
well,
Been there since 2008.
see, that was actually supposed to be Lowe's.
Yes,
Lowe's came in, and then the recession hit, Menards bought out Lowe's
yes.
for that property. Well, they went through the developer, And then that's where Menards, and then the recession hit, further, and then Menards scrapped the plans.
Yeah.
And so, but anyway, since we're on that subject, I wanted to bring that up.
Speaking of, your housing stock and that sort of thing, we had a meeting with CL Enterprises, Tangled Roots people.
Yeah.
There's some pretty neat stuff. Hopefully they actually come to fruition for downtown as far as
Nice.
what they're
I hope
planning
so.
on doing.
I hope so.
Madison Street, some really neat, apartments.
Mm-hmm.
Columbus Street there, north of the church.
Mm-hmm.
They got some pretty cool plans and, they
If they
plan
could
on
just do
doing
it.
some of the
I
stuff
was
this,
gonna
yeah,
say,
that's
Just
the problem.
do it. I
If-
mean,
if
how
they
long
can-
has the
Big
Montgomery
ideas,
Ward
not
building
fruition.
sat
Yes.
there?
It seems
That's
like
what-
almost
That's
like
been the frustration with the city is, they got
Yeah, they
these big
talk and
ideas
talk and talk this wonderful picture, but nothing gets done.
He's got other entities. going
Well,
right
yeah,
now.
well, maybe he's got his fingers in too much stuff.
Good.
Anyway, my point is, I hope it.
Yeah.
I hope it-
Then
However, though,
people
you
say,
know,
buy
that's-
that old store
we also
over
have to look
there,
at
I'd like,
Get it done.
I agree on that, but also look at it, he has invested a ton of money into Ottawa and the
Sure.
surrounding area. And I know that's bad timing with the COVID. I think we would have seen probably stuff happen. It wasn't for that. I mean, it's just set everything back, but you're right, it's time to move forward now,
Well,
It's been time to
it
move
leads me
forward.
to believe that it's almost getting to the point where who's the developer now for Autumnwood and we got Pike still has Pembroke.
Autumnwood is, bank owned.
Yeah,
Which one?
the bank owns the.
Oh,
The bank owns up there,
Mhm.
so they're not doing anything with it. Is Pike getting ready to open up a new phase up there? Because he's pretty much
I
out
only
of
have one more
lots.
phase left.
Yeah. I
Well, he's
don't
got
think
that-
it is.
No, he's got, 2 phases left up there. He's got the phase in the southeast corner, and then he's got the stuff to the south that goes all the way to Foss Road.
No, he doesn't.
Huh?
No, he doesn't.
Around the circle? Yeah, he's got that whole piece that goes out to Foss Road.
North?
Between the railroad tracks and,
Yeah,
okay, I see what you're talking about.
yeah. He's got a big chunk that he's got to build yet.
That's still a cornfield.
That's still off field there.
Yeah,
We did the one little lot, what was that, 2 years ago, 3 years ago?
Yeah.
But there's a whole phase that goes towards the south, towards Golden Rule.
yeah, I know what you're
Yes,
talking
You're
about.
right. You're right.
So
But
he's
really,
gotta
I
be
mean-
thinking about, or somebody's gonna be thinking about coming in and
I
doing
hope so.
that.
There's
So-
there's no.
God knows there's a need.
Yeah,
I mean, the lumber thing's
I
gonna
thought
slow
you meant
stuff
back
down,
into
but,
the next
yeah, a little
subdivision.
hard to,
Oh, I think there's a need for more.
And then
There's a
homes.
definite need. but-
and then I don't know if we're involved in it anymore, but you got Wayne Reeves thing sitting back there in that hidden oaks thing that never took off. That's in the back.
That's the one I was talking about. That's not.
What,
That's on the west side of the
Oh,
railroad
yeah.
tracks where Arnie
Yes,
lives,
yes, yes.
Yeah.
where Arnie lives. It's in the back.
I
There's
can- I
a
can tell you
cul-de-sac
that
back
that's
there.
not
I've never been
are
back
you
there. to see
talking
it.
off Foss's Road?
Yeah, to the north,
Brent,
Inside
To the
source.
north.
I can tell you that that is not going to get built on.
isn't it?
Not 16 acres of it, it's not.
God, you own it?
We do.
And take that.
And
Good.
the other piece is Pike's, and he has no intention
Yeah.
to do anything with that
Awesome.
at the back end of that circle. I mean, we're gonna build a house.
And then, who owns the piece where the old, what was it? It was the motorcycle club over there. It was the old quarry. That's off of, 4H Road. That one time they were talking about developing that.
Right before the hill?
Yeah, before you go down the hill,
Oh, on the
right
left?
next to Verdine's, to
On
the west of it. Somebody was talking about developing that at one
So on
time.
the south side across from.
The
here?
south side of, across from the 4H grounds, yeah.
Isn't that kind of like a body shop and?
No, but it's behind the body shop.
Oh,
And
I
that-
don't
It's an
know.
old quarry, it's an old gravel pit and whatever in there.
God, I don't know.
They were talking about developing that at one time.
Really?
Because they were gonna have, where you go into Verdine's off of 4H Road,
That would take an enormous amount.
that was gonna be a park right in there.
Well,
Yeah. It's, it was all kinds, there was all kinds of development going on that end of town. And then the recession hit and it all blew up.
Oh, yeah.
But I know
Yeah,
Pembroke is already,
they're pretty full.
they got a preliminary plat for Pembroke. But they didn't do finals for those other phases. So at some point, Paul Pike's gonna come in here and say, hey, I'm ready to go on phase 5 or whatever it is.
So that's the corner that you're talking in Pembroke.
The southeast corner of Pembroke. So you come into Pembroke and there's that street that goes south.
Yeah,
And a
that's
dead
what you're
end.
And a
talking
dead
about.
end.
The dead ends.
If you keep
That's
going
it.
south, there's another phase there.
Right.
Yeah, I know what you're
So
talking
doesn't
about.
he own this cornfield too, on the other side of the railroad track? Isn't this the railroad track right here?
I think he owns this,
Right.
but then
That's,
somebody was gonna develop this.
okay.
Cause here's the 4-H grounds, that's that
Right.
junkyard you're talking
Oh,
about.
okay.
They were coming through here. This was gonna be a park, and then this was all gonna get developed right here,
Wow,
this.
okay.
But this is one phase, and then this is one phase of Pembroke.
Yeah, and remember last time he was here, we talked to him about that stub road that doesn't go anywhere?
Yeah.
There's that stub road around the
That just-
circle, it just goes.
Well, it was this lot right here that he came in on.
There's this, looks like there's a
This
stub right
long
there.
little road
There's
right
a
there.
stub. Yeah, there you go.
Right
Yeah.
here.
Yeah, because we talked to him
Oh,
about the
and
size of
then-
the stub road, he wanted to make the lot bigger, remember, and cut off some of the road, remember the conversation now?
Oh, we wanted to
Yeah.
make this lot bigger and it was gonna cut into
Right.
that part of the,
Yeah.
coming out of the wheel right
Somebody
there.
wanted a premium sized lot, and we're like, wait a minute, that's how you're gonna get to the next phase.
But with the demand now for housing, I mean, there's no houses out there right now. So,
We know,
you know that,
so does Doug.
yeah, but I'm just saying,
So do buyers and sellers.
at some point, they're gonna be coming to us. And
Yep.
that's the only property I know that's ready to go right now.
Well, I'll tell you what I'm worried about, and I may be the only one because I'm old. But I would think in maybe a year to 18 months, you're gonna see one hell of an amount of foreclosures.
Yeah, just like, oh wait.
Because people are overpaying, they're
Mhm.
sinking all their money in these houses, and it's
Mhm.
just gonna hit them smack dead. Just like we did back in 14 and 15 with all those foreclosures.
Mhm.
And it's gonna happen again,
Well, when they start turning their houses into cash registers and pulling money out,
yeah.
Yeah,
is when it's
But
gonna
when
hit.
you pay $10, $15, $20,000 over asking price for a property, that, you just can't maintain that. That value is not gonna stay there.
Well, I have a neighbor that somebody knocked on their door and offered to buy their house and they sold it.
I believe it,
Oh, yeah.
I believe it.
yeah, it's going on.
Yes, it
Yeah.
is.
And they're currently putting a swimming pool in the backyard.
Oh,
The new owners.
it's a
Yeah,
seller's
the biggest
market.
home in our
They haven't
subdivision,
sold it yet.
the Guires, they sold their home finally.
Yeah, they have an offer on it,
Yeah, well, they have all, I should say.
yeah.
I should,
So
All right.
the one across the road.
yeah, yeah. Anyway,
Anybody have anything else for tonight?
no,
No,
nice.
We will see you all in May.
Yeah,
to adjourn.
Happy,
I'll bring flowers.
Sorry.
Happy- happy Arbor Day, everybody. It's
You
Friday.
gotta do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
All right.
You guys, the city, did you get all this stuff ready or did they drop it off?